Time always flies when you have fun. That was one of the quickest conversations that we've had in a long time.
This is The Real Truth with Tommy Spina. I am Tommy Spina. Today's guest is Barnett Wright, who's the CEO of the Birmingham Times, one of the few remaining actual paper newspapers that I'm aware of, certainly in my area, but probably across the country. There are still a few. Barnett always brings entertainment and enlightenment to any issues that are going on both locally and nationally. I hope you enjoy the show. Good day, Barnett.
Good day. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Today's guest is Barnett Wright. This is The Real Truth. And Barnett and I have been friends for probably at least 13 years that I can think of. And we go back even before that when you were covering for what used to be called a newspaper.
Right.
In the city of Vestavia.
We were friends then?
Well, we had just met.
Right.
Do you think our relationship got that close that quickly? I usually need a little period to warm up before I feel comfortable, right? Especially talking to the press.
I think we were respected. I can't say we were friends because I was the media, so I don't want people to say we were friends because they would think that the coverage was slanted. And I know we're going to get into a lot of that today.
We're going back to 2005. That's how long? So 20 years.
20 years. That's right. Okay.
And Barnett and I exchange a phone call every New Year's Eve and we talk other times as well, but we always talk on.
It's become a tradition.
It has. Yeah. Right there with black-eyed peas and turnip green.
Yes.
Or collard green.
Yes.
I don't know how that tradition started.
Yeah. Now, any liquid? Is there any like just to the food? Is there any drinks or any those type things?
On New Year's Eve, I'm usually a guy that's an hour ahead in New York City watching on TV in my pajamas these days at my ripe old age. The days of decadence have disappeared.
Okay.
And I see it morphed into those two guys whose name Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen.
Andy Cohen, that's right.
And they have a great time.
They do.
Too much fun.
Yes.
I see them doing shots of tequila at midnight.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of things I don't want to do anymore.
I'm with you on that.
So we are in a government shutdown right now as we tape.
Right.
There is talk about some relief about that just as recent as last night. There's contention about the Democrats that caved in, I'll use that expression, it's mine, to the demands, or capitulated, I think is the word.
That's a better word. Because
they are not happy with the promise of a health care plan. They don't trust the Republicans regarding that. So we're getting the House back in session, but that's on a national level. You do want to speak to that at all? Please feel free to.
You know, I think the one thing that the Republicans have is they have unity. They stick together. They have a playbook
and a good marketing plan.
They don't veer from it, and they also have. And again, you know, I'm neutral, you know, so I look at both sides. Not only do they have a great marketing plan, they have a great marketer. Okay, no matter what you say about the president, okay, he knows how to sell his agenda. And he also knows how to get his side online, in line, rather.
Well, his agenda is consistent with the agenda of at least 75 million voters.
Right.
Or it was. I don't know if that's changed. We don't know. We won't know.
Right.
Some of the conversations I've had with others on this program is about this series is about the rule of law. And when I talk about the rule of law, I am specifically referring to the three branches of government.
Okay.
And creeping in, and one of those branches, I believe, is overtaking the other two. It's almost like we now have one branch of government, but there's always a check. It was intended to be a check and balance system, and one of the checks was the press.
Right.
And so you represent the press,
Right.
which is guaranteed right under our Constitution. But in light of my demise with Sinclair Broadcasting Group, and I'm not saying I got cut because I have a particular bent in one direction or another. I was just told they were going in a different direction. I don't know exactly what that means, and I asked what it meant. I didn't really get a satisfactory answer, but I'm not sure what that direction is, but I do know they prepare must-run ads for their local anchors to read across the country. They read the same exact storyline. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's nationalization and centralization of the message that has nothing to do with what I'll call the truth sometimes. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know where the truth is. That's the purpose of this show, is to try to get to at least the real truth, and the real truth is what I would like to hear from you regarding what I just said.
Sure. So before we do that, for those who are new, for those who are new to the podcast, why don't you just give a brief background when you talk about Sinclair, what happened to you? Why don't you just say what happened? I mean, just since this is the truth, just talk about what happened.
Well, I did tapings every 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I would go in and I would find my own guest. I would ask people in the community for suggestions of who they would like to hear. Most of my guests were former politicians of some stature, former governors, people like yourself, John Archibald, Kyle Whitmire. I could go on and on. Former federal judges, former attorney generals, my airport authority CEO. I did musical programs that were of interest to local functions that were going on in the city at the Art Walk, or I did a series regarding the Resource Center out on the west side of town that was trying to engage with young people and take guns out of their hands and assist with conflict resolution. That Restore, I think, is the name of that entity. I worked with Judge Fortune some. I've had Judge Owens on. So it was geared toward local content for the most part. It did not get to a national level. Although the reason for the program was because the FCC, back when I started 13 years ago, 14 now, required stations that didn't have news channels to have a certain number of hours dedicated to community events and community affairs. So when it came up in a board meeting, another friend of mine, Karen Cole, who was in that board meeting, as they were discussing who are we going to get to host it, raised her hand and said, I guess she raised her hand, she probably just spoke out, and said, I know somebody can host it. And at that time, the station manager, whose name I'm drawing a blank on right this second, who was followed by Eric Land, who still I am in touch with, were all about my program and loved the fact that it was local in nature, covering a 9-county area. And even though it wasn't consistent with, quote, I'll call it the politics of Sinclair Broadcast Group, they thought it was important to the community and still feel that way. So one afternoon, it happened to be coincidental maybe. I don't know if they knew what my shows were going to be before they ran. I was interviewing Doug Jones, and we were just talking about the state of affairs, and my cameraman at that time, Grant Benton's, was taping the show, and I had to go to the bathroom, so I walked up the hallway and I across our station manager at the time, and she said, "Did Grant tell you I would like to see you before you left today?" Well, I said no, because that he had not. But what she had done, she had texted him while we were taping, and he had not seen the message. So when I asked him, he said no. And then he said, "Oh, I just got a text." So I went to see the station manager, and she told me they were going in a different direction. This was shortly after Colbert had been canceled and right before Kimmel got suspended and brought back. But I later learned that Sinclair Broadcast Group was doing these must-run ads, and then I just figured that what I had to offer wasn't what they wanted. My show was never intended to be a moneymaker. It was intended to fulfill a requirement of the FCC. And I asked her about that. How are you going to fulfill that requirement? And the answer was, we're running late night, like 3 a.m., the 3340 news that they also own. But they acquired, oddly enough, they acquired CW21 and my 68 first. And then they acquired 3340. 3340 being an ABC affiliate, so much larger viewing audience.
Right.
And I made some comment about, can't be about money, I don't pay me that much. And she said, and everything about money. But I think when she said that, she meant about money that they were getting from the FCC and the directions they were getting from the administration about what to air. So I do believe it had something to do with money, just not my money. It was their money.
Right.
I mean, they're $3 billion or $30 billion or $300 billion. It's a big, big international, global network.
Yeah.
That owns I don't know, hundreds or thousands of TV stations, but they own a good many. So I left, and some people were disappointed and asked that I do a podcast. And so I said, okay, I think I'll give it a whirl. And here I am talking to you again.
Yeah.
Except in a different way. We don't have to dress up.
Yeah.
We don't have to put on makeup or shave, or not that I did any of those things except shave. I don't have to watch the clock. I don't have to worry about changing clothes between sets while they run commercials. So here we are. But I always went to you because you were local press, and particularly Black Americans were your demographic and the recipients, plus me, of your paper. Yeah. And it was, in fact, and still is, a paper.
Right.
And I know there's an association that you attend meetings for that are brought together of Black broadcasters and media. And I'm just wondering what's going on in that world as it relates to what we see from the outside looking in that's going on with our government.
So and thanks for that.
Did that help?
Yeah, it did help the background, and I think you have national and some international listeners, and just a couple of things. When you mentioned Archibald and you mentioned Whitmire, those are Pulitzer Prize winning journalists.
Correct.
Okay, so I just wanted when people hear that name, I want them to know who they are. Yeah. And the judges that you mentioned are Jefferson County judges, Owens and.
But also had federal judge U.W. Clemon, who I've reached out to be on my show.
Yeah.
And I also have been reached out by some sitting federal judges who've asked to be on my show, because I'm talking about the rule of law. I had former Mayor Richard Harrington.
Right.
I had former Governor Jim Folsom, former Lieutenant Governor Bill Baxley, former Attorney General Bill Baxley. So my appeal was to the state. Primarily.
Yeah.
But we're just one of 50. But the problems that are going on in all 50.
That's true.
We are red. Therefore, we're not quite as target worthy as the blue states.
Yeah.
I mean, the red states that seem to be getting troops sent in because of people that are protesting and things of that nature. We don't have much protesting going on here. We did have a pretty good King's rally.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Or what was the name? What was it called?
I think No King.
No Kings.
Yeah.
And then I've interviewed Joellen Beckham, who does the billboard signs around town.
Yeah.
That you see periodically.
So you know, what you just mentioned, your show is similar to what we try to do at the Birmingham Times. So that is be hyper local. See, that's why we're successful. Now, while we have a black focused readership, but it's more about local issues that are going on, right? What's going on in City Hall? What happens in City Hall doesn't just have an impact on black people. It has an impact on everybody. Jefferson County Commission, right? It doesn't just have an impact on black people. And I think sometimes what's lost in a lot of the national discussion is that it has an impact on black people. Well, if you look at SNAP recipients, 37% of SNAP recipients are white. And this is coming from the USDA. I mean, just look at the numbers, just do the research, okay? A large number more recipients of SNAP are white as opposed to black. Black is 26%. Okay, then you have Hispanic, and then Asian American, and then that other category. So when we try to target, we just don't look at, okay, this is for black people. We have to look at the impact on all people. So that's how we try to stay, that's how we have stayed relevant, is because we focus on those local issues, education, City Hall. We've done a lot on health issues, One thing about many people, especially in the black community, Tom, is that they don't look at preventative care. They're not proactive. They wait till something is wrong before something happens to them. Our cover story this week is on caregivers, the impact that special needs has on families, on friends, on jobs. So that's just not a black issue. That's a people issue when you have someone in your family with special needs and you need the time to help take care of them. And that's resonated.
Or just someone that's aged out to the point where they can't take care of themselves and they don't have anybody.
That's huge. That's huge. Dementia, those type of issues that we talk about. Aging, you're absolutely right about that. And you have, your caregiver for your mother, your father, or someone in your family. So the elderly, aging is about as important a category for caregivers as any of the others.
Well, aren't we diminishing in population when it comes to the birth of new citizens, assuming we still have birthright citizenship?
We are. I mean, and then that's a whole nother different conversation. And what we do is with those kind of issues, I believe we have one of the greatest, one of the best research universities in the world right here in Alabama, UAB.
I do too.
So what we try to do is, with a lot of our stories that we do, is we try to call them up, and they always provide experts and have those kind of conversations you just talked about.
Well, the caregivers themselves are hard to come by. They're incredibly expensive if you don't have the necessary assets to make that happen. And so it's a real problem. And I had firsthand experience with it during the month of October and learned an awful lot about the different levels of care. Right before we started to tape, a topic that's not necessarily of national interest, but is certainly of local interest, is what's going on with our Waterworks Board. We recently had legislation enacted that, from Mayor Woodfin's perspective, basically diminished his ability to control what I would call, if I were mayor of Birmingham, our water. And that even though the customer base is beyond Birmingham, it's still our water.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any discussions on where that stands? I know we're in the process of looking for a new CEO, I guess he would be called.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can talk about with respect to the county commission and what's going on with the selection process? How Mayor Woodfin feels about that, how the city feels about that, and where we've been put
Right.
in the board universe?
Well, as far as the commission is concerned, they had one appointee, so that appointee was made. So they had a selection for the board. Based on what I've been reading, that it's really been a level of disorganization over there because most of the board members are new and they haven't gotten a chance to know each other. There's still some disagreement because you have 5-member Republican board versus 2 democratically appointed members of the board. So most of the votes will be along 5-2 as far as who's being hired. You talk about the CEO.
Right. That's
So
the search that's going on.
the search that's going on. If the 5 decide that there's somebody that they want,
Then that's who's going to be the one.
that's who's going to be hired. So that could make for a very difficult relationship, especially for the 2, right, on the board, who are outvoted on nearly everything that they support, what they think is in the best interest of the board. So when you have that kind of a working relationship, it's just not going to be, I believe, healthy for the organization or for the for the customers of the water board. I mean, it would be nice if there's some kind of consensus that includes the 2 Democratic members, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Now, so for the most part, keep in mind, and I always say this, there's some issues where there will be a 7-0 vote, right? They're not opposed on every issue. So there's some opposition, but for the most part, on those key issues like appointing a CEO, the majority will get their way.
Well, I guess time will be the telltale on where that goes.
Correct.
Perhaps we'll regroup and talk about that after the fact.
Mm-hmm. Which may be too late, but go ahead.
So back to the press.
Okay.
Does the press still play as important of a role today as it did when our founding fathers decided it made sense to create an amendment that allowed for the freedom of the press? I mean, there was a reason why that was talked about in 1776 and onto the constitutional enactment 10 years later. Do you think that the press has become, for lack of a better word, a 4th branch of government?
A 4th branch of government?
Yeah, because they put a message out there. I don't know if it's true. I'm telling you that what we're talking about is the real truth, and I believe it because I'm speaking from what I see. It's my truth. But are we just being, I feel like we're just being fed information that's being generated by someone other than the person that's reporting it and other than what's actually going on. And it's made in a way that generates viewership and not necessarily to deliver an accurate message of the current state of affairs in our government.
You mean like AI?
Well, like AI or Portland. Pick on Portland if you want to.
Yeah.
They're getting somebody will say, Portland's fine, leave us alone, we got it under control. And then somebody else will say, well, no, you don't. We're going to nationalize the National Guard and send them in militia fashion.
Right.
I mean, that's just scary to me. That stuff is stuff you read about happening in third world countries. And I'm not saying we're a third world country. We're the strongest, most powerful, and at one point the most respected. I don't think we're so respected anymore globally.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I feel that way.
Yeah. So, your show is The Real Truth. The challenge is nobody knows what that is anymore. Okay. You talk about national media press. Okay. You have credibility. Okay. When you tell me that it's the real truth, I believe you because I know you. I've seen the shows that you've done. So you have credibility.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You can't say that with a lot of other entities anymore. Okay. There was a story that there were Haitians eating dogs and cats. Where did that come from? I mean, what was the veracity in that? But it took hold. I mean, people actually believe that. So that fourth branch right now, I mean, you don't know exactly what that is. And there was a time when you had to go through, you talked about government, checks and balances, right?
Yep.
Media used to have checks and balances. Okay. There was a time if a reporter went to my editors and said, we saw Barnett drinking with the Republican lobbyists in a dark corner. Okay, so who are your sources? Where did that come from? How did you verify that? Where does that come from? Now, you know what happens? Somebody will put that on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. Barnett was drinking with a lobbyist in a bar. Okay, first of all, I don't drink. Okay, I don't hang out in bars. Okay, we talked earlier, right? I'm like you, I'm in my pajamas now at 9:30, 10 o'clock, watching ESPN. That's no longer a problem. But here's what happens. Somebody could put that on social media, okay, and then somebody else will repost it, and then somebody will share it, and then the next thing you know, I'm going to be getting phone calls from family and friends saying, "I can't believe you were in a bar, okay, drinking with a lobbyist in a dark corner. Where'd you get that from?" And then it takes hold. And here's the tragedy that we have now is that there's some media outlets will take that story and run with it. Now it's out of control. So we don't have the checks and balances that we once had in most responsible media organizations.
Well, in speaking with John Archibald, he used a very similar dynamic. And he used the expression, there are no guardrails. There was a time, like you described, if you reported something that wasn't validated and sourced properly, there was accountability, not only to you personally, but to the deep pocket that owned your entity. The same could be said for the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Boston Globe. Nowadays, social media and things that get posted that are not the real truth have no guardrails. There's no check or balance on what anybody can say. Therefore, if the president, for example, wants to say A, people treat it like it's gospel, like his mouth is a prayer book, when it is in fact, from what I can tell, sometimes not even close to being a prayer book. So I often talk about this in my job as a criminal defense lawyer. The truth gets lost in perception. And you in the bar has a perception. It could have been nothing It could have not even happened at all.
That's the point. That's the point. That's the point that I'm making. But so I understand the president as an example. But Tommy, it's not just the president. It's people. It's your neighbor. It's people in the community. They have these blogs.
Neighborhood Digest.
Neighborhood Digest. So it's just, it can happen anywhere. Me coming out of one of my neighbor's houses. Okay, that's not source. That's not the truth. You just put it on, and now the whole neighborhood is saying they're suspicious that I'm coming out of somebody's house. There are no guardrails. It's become very, very dangerous.
So,
and let me just add this, and we've seen this also. Suppose somebody fabricates that type of scenario, and then all of a sudden, somebody's husband comes across this or reads this and wants to know why I was coming out of somebody's house, and now he's looking for me. So this is very dangerous.
Well, I quoted a judge who's retired now, but she often spoke in terms of perception morphs into reality that morphs into truth, when in fact it's neither. And so in the criminal justice system, of course, the ultimate arbiter of truth is a jury of your peers. In the press universe, there is no arbiter of truth, I don't think, unless it's the reader or the listener. And I guess we're both asking people that are listening to this podcast is not to take everything that you come across, particularly on social media, as being gospel truth. Think about it for a moment. Do your own research. See if in fact it is real. I don't think the New York Times would expose itself. I know it's considered an ultra-liberal, or maybe just plain liberal, publication. But the stories and the content are good. And the same would be true for your publication and other publications like it.
Well, thanks for saying that. So here's what we also do. We put links into our stories. Like if we have we put links into our stories. So if we have a story about caregivers and we talk about some of the challenges that caregivers face, we will have a link in the story to a caregiver who has faced challenges. And that link would be to a credible organization, the CDC. And I know all these organizations are going through changes right now and challenges right now. Or from an article that appeared in a medical journal, let's say 3 years ago, or appeared on the Wall Street Journal, or there's a link to something at Johns Hopkins, right? So it gives it the credibility that readers can have confidence that what they're reading is the truth. So it links back to factual information.
Well, that's helpful, but then you get questioned about whether or not CDC is putting out the right word. Or are they putting out a word that's being given to them by somebody else?
Right.
Like Mr. Kennedy, for example.
Right. So that's what I said, a story that appeared 3 or 4 years ago before he got there. Yes. So the other medical journals, this is what I do, is if I see something that I believe that something doesn't sound right to me, I will research it. I will do searches for it and look at different organizations that have the information. And sometimes you'll see a consensus that if you look at these type of information that it will come up. What was it? I forget. There was a girl who was born with a rare condition, and the parents gave us the medical condition for what it was. I didn't know what it was, so I did a Google search for it, and I looked at 3 different organizations to get the definition of what that rare condition was. I think we checked Mayo Clinic, we checked Johns Hopkins, and we checked UAB. And we looked at it, and based on those three sources, we came up with a definition for what the rare condition was.
And we could rely on it as factual.
Yeah. I mean, if the
at
three
least
of
coming from the experts that
Correct.
would have the opinions that were validated by virtue of their expertise.
Right now, I don't ever recover. If this is just me, I don't recall finding information based on our research, for example, that Tylenol causes autism. Okay, based on our research. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't or it does, but I'm saying independent research didn't come to that conclusion.
I know it makes my knee stop hurting. So
I think that's what it's intended to do.
it is an effective non-narcotic pain reliever.
Right. So let me just ask you this: if you had a, let's say, 4-year-old grandchild, and the grandchild's knees was hurting, would you give them Tylenol?
I would.
Okay.
I have a 9-week-old grandchild.
Okay.
Who's running a temperature, and she has been given Tylenol.
You're right.
To bring her temperature down.
Yeah.
And she's responding well.
Yes.
And doing well.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
My boys had something one time, and the doctor said, take 4 Tylenol 4 times a day for 4 days. I never forgot that. 4 times a day for every 4 hours, okay, 4 days. And you know what? He was better. And they said he had to take it all. Just because he's feeling better doesn't mean take it. 4 times a day, 4 days, and everything's better. And 4 Tylenol.
Okay.
He's fine.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, he's fine.
I know it made my knee stop hurting anyway. So what do you think the future holds? As we just came through an election cycle. The Democratic Party was at least feeling emboldened. I don't know that we have staying power. And I speak as a Democrat when I say that, although I'm inclined to vote for the person more so than the party. But I do lean toward the Democratic candidates. I understand there's rumble in the jungle that our friend Doug Jones, my friend Doug Jones, I assume he's your friend too, is going to run against Tommy Tuberville in his race for governor of the state of Alabama. You got a feel for that at all? I'd like to see Doug pull that off. If the election were tomorrow, I'd feel much better about it, but we've got a ways and probably some more local elections to get through first. Our primaries are in March now.
May.
May?
It'll be in May.
But we're like on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
And those are for elections in November?
Yes.
So we'll have November 26 elections and November 28 elections. Right.
Yeah. Yes. So we have midterms this year. Next year we had the midterms. Then we have the presidential in 2 years after that. So yes, but we have our primary election, and the Jones Tuberville race will be in November of 26.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said? The Jones Tuberville race will be.
I don't know what Doug's thinking, but I can ask him and find out. Do you think he's got a chance in this state? A Democrat trying to win a statewide election here hasn't occurred in a very long time.
Absolutely, I do. And call me crazy. I think what you've seen, the impact of some of these policies that we've seen from the national level is trickling down to the local level. I really do. People losing jobs, people being laid off, people, the whole SNAP thing, it's not just hurting one party, it's hurting people. Airlines, you can't, you're delayed, your flights are being canceled. You're absolutely right. If this is being held next week, okay, I think Doug's chances way up, because we saw what happened on the recent elections, November elections, in Virginia. We saw what happened in New Jersey. We saw what happened California with Prop 50. Some of these other local races for judges, for House seats. I think there's some anger out there, and it showed at the ballot box.
But does it have staying power? I guess we won't know until we know.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know, but I tell you what, I mean, based on what's happened over the past year, the way things are happening, I would suspect there'll be a lot of more things that will be happening that's going to outrage people.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Okay. Time always flies when you have fun. That was one of the quickest conversations that we've had in a long time.
Well, it was over 41 minutes. So
that was 41 minutes.
Yeah. And we used to speak in 7-minute increments.
Okay.
So we had a good eye contact conversation. That's what I like about this program and this format.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us. Thank you for joining me today on The Real Truth. My name is Tommy Spina. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. I hope you will follow or subscribe to my podcast and listen in to the next episode. If you found it valuable, please take a moment to rate it and review it. It helps us to reach more listeners that care about the issues that matter. Share it with a friend. Stay engaged and remember, the truth matters. I'll see you next time.